Greetings WordPressers. In today's show, if you need to turn a post list into a post grid, I'm going to show you how with a plugin. Jakson here, welcome to the channel. This is where I share my tips, tricks and tutorials all about WordPress, and if that's your type of thing, then please do go ahead and consider subscribing if you're new here. And definitely check out the show notes in the description below. It has all the links and other bits and pieces that we're going to be talking about today. Plus it has my list, a top 10 download of my all-time favorite WordPress plugins. But anyway, on with the show. Quite a few themes come with a fairly standard blog list, blog lists that are listed in a list view. Sometimes it's quite nice to have them in a nice grid view, quite slick, quite modern and all that jazz. So in this WordPress tutorial, I'm going to show you how with a plugin. Now there's one that if you Google or you search the WordPress plugin directory and you search for post grid, there's one that will pop up and it's been around for donkey's years. Now the one that floats my boat a little bit more has got a very similar name. It's actually called the post grid rather than post grid. It does the same thing, but in my humble opinion, it actually does it a little bit slicker and is slightly easier to use. Both those plugins have got pro versions, but this one edges it just for me because of its responsiveness, along with just how easy it is to use. So here we go with the tutorial. It's making a post grid for your WordPress website with the post grid plugin. Okay, so let's make a post grid layout. Here I've got the Cento theme with the hands template installed, and it's got a kind of regular blog list. So let's get our plugin installed. We're going to go to the WordPress admin and go to plugins, add new, and go grab the text of our plugin. It's the post grid. Let's paste that into the keyword search and hit the return key, and it should be the first on our list. Let's click install now and activate that plugin. And once it's activated, you'll see a new menu item called the post grid. Let's click that and see what we've got. We've got an empty list of grids because we haven't created any yet. So let's add new grid and we get a blank form to fill in. Let's give that a title and let's take a look at the settings. We've got 4 tabs here. We've got the post source. Now on the free repo version, there's only posts or pages to choose from. So we'll leave it on posts. And the next settings is for the filters. Now this is if you wanted to have specific post IDs or exclude specific post IDs or limit the amount of posts shown, etc. And there's some advanced filters which we're not going to go into on this tutorial that will help you display sets of posts really quite intricately. So that's the post source tab. Let's have a look at the layout tab. Now on the free version, there's only 4 layouts to choose from. We're going to go through each one of them, but we'll leave it on the first one, layout 1. We'll change it to 3 columns and we'll enable pagination and we'll display 6 posts per page. And the next setting is quite important. What I found is if we set that to the largest thumbnail, that will really work across larger browser width sizes. And I'll show you how that works in just a sec. The media source will leave as featured image because all these blog posts have featured image sets to them, but you can change it to the first image from the content, which is kind of pretty useful. The excerpt length we're going to change to 99 just to make it a little shorter than it could be. And the next tab is the field selection. Now this is the kind of metadata and stuff that's shown alongside the image. We'll just leave that for now because I'll show you how that works when we turn some of that off. And the style, again, this tab is for adding a little bit of style to the grid, and I'll show you how that works in just a second. So if we publish that, you see we've got this shortcode which we can put into any page, but we're actually going to attach it to our existing blog page. So let's go find that blog page. We're going to go to pages and open that in a new tab, and we'll see our blog page there. So if we click on our blog page, we see that we are not allowed to edit it because it is currently set to our post page. So let's go change the global settings for that, and that's on settings and reading. We'll open that in a new tab as well. And here you can see that we've got the post page set to blog. We're going to turn that off by choosing select. That means we don't assign the default posts to any. And if we click save changes and go back to our front end and give our blog page a refresh, you will see that we've actually got nothing. That's because we don't have any content on the page and we don't have our posts assigned to it. So let's go back to our admin and go to the page that we were editing, which was our blog page, and give that an update. And you'll see now we've got the ability to edit the page. And quite handily, the Post Grid plugin gives you a little icon that allows you to select the grid that you want to use for the page. Now, this is going to be the one we just created, my grid. Let's press OK and click Update the page. Go back to our front end, and we should have, after a quick refresh, an awesome looking post grid. How cool is that? Straight out of the box, it's looking pretty special. Now, on the free repo version, there's a couple of things we can do with the settings. And if you recall, I talked about the style tab. Let's go find that again. And we'll go back to our PostGrid editor and go to the style page. And you see this is the primary color highlight, i.e. the text here and the links and all the rest of it, and the read more border. So let's change that to something a bit more in keeping with our theme, and something around that would be nice. Update that. And also we can manage what metadata is shown. So this is the author, the published date, the event, which is the category. We don't have tags on these posts, but we do have the comment count. So let's go see how we can change those. We go back to our field selection. If we untick comment count, tags, and categories, actually we will leave categories on, update that, refresh our front end, and we've got the comment count removed, and plus our highlight is now that kind of grey color, which is much more in keeping with the theme. Super cool, huh? Now back on the admin, you'll see that on the post grid there's actually a menu item for settings. If we open that link in a new tab and take a look at that, you see the only settings actually on the free repo version is for CSS. Now this is handy because if you have a look at our front end, we can see that we don't have much space above the grid. It kind of like it's jammed right up the top there. So on our little text document, I've actually got a bit of CSS. Now you can also obviously customize stuff to your heart's content if you know a bit of CSS, but I know that the CSS for the box that contains the grid is actually this .rt tbg container. So if I go paste that into our CSS box and save those changes, you'll see that I can put a little bit of space up the top there with a little bit of a refresh. There you go. Suddenly everything's looking a little sweeter. And I've also got a little bit of CSS just to make this default H2 tag that's the heading just a little bit more in keeping with the theme. So I'm going to go and grab that and paste that into our CSS spot and save those changes. And we should now have a much better looking headline text styling for our grid. And we do. So the reason I choose this grid plugin as a free option is because it really does work very responsibly straight out of the box. Let me show you what I mean. If I use the Firefox developer tools to go into the browser dimensions view, you see we've got a great looking site at a regular sort of desktop. And if we make that a very small mobile, see it shrinks right down, and then a larger, say iPhone 6 mobile. But check this out. Watch how responsive this gets as you pull the website wider and taller based on whatever browser your user is looking at. So you see how it jumps into multiple columns. The images all resize super responsively. Very impressive for a free plugin. All the free PostGrid plugins on the repo that I've tested don't do it as well as this. Let's go back to the main view. Now, as a standard grid layout, that is pretty sweet. But check out the other layouts that we've got as options for our PostGrids. If we go back to our PostGrid edit page, we go layout settings, we'll have a look at what layout 2 looks like. Let's choose that and update that. Go back to our front end and refresh our page. And you see we get a different style. Let's actually make that 2 columns rather than 3. Update that and refresh our front end. And we've got a very useful style layout here. The third layout, let's have a quick check of that. Layout 3, update that and refresh our front end. Again, is another very nice looking layout. And say, for example, here we could add a bit of CSS, maybe to space the rows out a little bit better. But something you could do quite quickly is change the excerpt to 200. And that's all looking a little sweeter. Pretty stonking stuff for a free plugin. So the last option on the layout settings is the Isotope Layout. Now check this out. We're going to change that excerpt down to 99, although on the Isotope, I don't think it shows. Let's have a look. In fact, let's change the columns to 3. Update that and refresh our front end. And look at this bad boy. Look at that. How beautiful is that isotope style display? incredible piece of kit, the PostGrid plugin. Love it. It's free and it looks and works just amazingly. So there you have it, the PostGrid plugin. I really like that one. It's super responsive and just kind of works a little bit slicker than the other things that are out there on the WordPress repo. But do tell me, do share your experiences with making PostGrids and stick your comments down below. And if you do like what you have seen here on the Jakson channel, I do encourage you to hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I shall see you later.